Jason.
It's me.
And we just got out of James Gunn's Superman, which is why I'm wearing a Luthor Corp shirt, because it's Luthor Corp in that movie.
I'm wearing not
Superman. You were not the only person with a Batman shirt in our showing, though.
Oh. Yeah, that's the theater back there.
Yep.
And we were just in there.
Yep. And the movie just ended 5 minutes ago.
5-10 minutes ago, yeah.
And Jason and I have not talked, we've not said one word to each other so far about the film. We're going to do a spoiler cast on Monday where we'll talk ins and outs, and it'll be at least a couple of hours. We put no spoilers in the title. We're going to do our level best to keep it to no spoilers. But I will just warn you, like, minor spoilers if things we mention count to some people as spoilers, because I think everybody's got their own opinion about what's a spoiler and what's not. So we're going to try to keep it to broad opinion and not, of course, get too detailed. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the movie already. I've been hearing from people that saw it yesterday. But we did watch it real early on a Friday, and a lot of people are probably going to go see it tonight. So anyway, Jason, this is gonna be interesting because I have no idea what you thought of it, and you don't know what I thought of it.
I have no idea what you thought of it.
I tried to be as poker face as I could, you know. I tried to be as stoic as Mr. Terrific in the movie.
It made it turn out, or it made me think that you didn't like it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't get a sense from you either.
Oh, okay.
There were definitely bits that you were kind of smiling at. So I know that there were things you must have liked.
Oh, I wasn't trying to poker face during the movie, but after the movie.
You're like, I gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Not to get anything away. So anyway, we forgot our signs, but we will do this like a standard how we felt about.
We'll use our thumbs.
Yeah, yes, we'll rip off Siskel and Ebert. We'll do our. People are yelling Clark in the comments. We're not going to interact too much with you guys live because we don't want to broadcast too long, and we're just broadcasting on a phone here, and so I'm not going to be able to see all the comments super readily. But if we see any super chats, we'll make sure and answer those. Just please do us a favor and don't ask anything that will make us spoil major things about the movie. Jason, give us obviously not full synopsis, but a setup for the premise of Superman, if you can. And again, a lot of people, especially from the trailers, I think we already have a pretty good sense of what the setup for the movie was. We did have that interview with Lois and Clark from the beginning of the movie in the trailers, and the idea that he's gone over to a foreign nation and stopped the conflict, and that's very controversial that he got involved in somebody else's almost war. But what else do you want to mention for just setting up what happens?
Well, that happens, and I don't know what.
That's kind of the main central conflict at the start, right?
At the start, yeah. Well, I don't know how, because really the setup of the movie, I don't know if it's spoilers or not. Because
just be as broad and cryptic as you can.
Yeah, it's basically
be as cryptonic as you can.
Okay.
Well, Superman has a dog.
Yes. They established that, and
he has a fortress, and he's got robots.
Yes, which are numbered.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a spoiler.
And they don't have numbers.
No,
they don't have feelings.
Supposedly.
Except
they kind of act like they do.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So, this is an established world where Superman is already, everyone already knows about Superman, and he's already dating Lois, and he's figured out his powers and everything.
Hi guys.
And so it starts with that thing that you mentioned that I didn't really understand what was happening, but whatever.
Well, it's a real kind of classic. I say classic. Like this is gonna sound like a weird way to put this, but like modern classic thing that we do with Superman a lot. And we do with a lot of like alternate versions of Superman in different media where we say if Superman chooses to get involved in foreign conflicts, is that extending his power too far? Is that him kind of asserting his dominance on the planet?
Yeah.
And can we trust him if he does that?
Yeah. And
that's really all you need to know about that.
Yeah. And then really the plot is kind of based on that too, or based on that idea. Is just, you know, is Superman too powerful? And do we want him, you know, is he ever going too far?
Yeah, and I think we can say Lex Luthor has a plot to make him look really bad.
Yes, that's the big plot of the movie. Is Lex Luthor has a plot to make Superman look really bad.
And I call the whole movie kind of a cat and mouse game with Lex and Superman.
Yes.
Where Lex is doing everything he can to destroy Superman in every possible way. Physically, mentally, emotionally, ruining his reputation. Just everything he could possibly come up with.
Yeah. There's also a cat and mouse game between Crypto and Spheres.
And of course, we have a supporting cast of both Daily Planet workers and of Justice Gang members.
Both. There's a lot of characters. There's like 100 characters. But
now, do you feel like? Well, I'm not gonna ask your feelings about any of that stuff yet. I'll just let you do best thing, worst thing, sign flip here in a second. But I'm just trying to think if there's any other major like setup elements to do. Why don't you go ahead and tell us how you felt about it? I'm trying really hard not to give too much away, but there are a lot of characters.
Yes. So I liked this movie. I'm just gonna say that off the bat.
Okay.
Thumbs up. Maybe 2 thumbs up. But then that would be 4 thumbs up.
That's not how the sign flips work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling it.
But he's going green.
I'm going green.
Mm-hmm.
And
because he cares about the environment.
Yes. Like Superman.
But not like Lex. This
Yeah.
is actually the least environmentally friendly Lex. And Lex is usually pretty environmentally unfriendly, but oh my god.
I liked a lot of the world building in this. Excuse me. And I don't know.
We will waste everyone's time less on Monday where we can actually talk about the movie.
Yeah. Despite it being one of the most comic booky Superman films we've had in a really long time, it's maybe the Superman film that feels the most real. And I'll just segue into my best thing, and my best thing is Corn Sweat as Superman. He's perfect casting. Like, he is Superman, and he's he really plays into that human side of Superman that we hadn't had in recent years, at least on the movie side. And I mean, I think everyone does a really good job. Lex is really good, and maybe my favorite Lex on screen. Because I don't know if I've said this on camera, but I'm not actually a big Lex Luthor fan. I don't really like.
I went wrong somewhere.
Lex Luthor.
I clearly. Austin's in here, and he just said, "Hi, Austin." He just said, "You won't believe a second man can fly."
Lex Luthor is just it. As far as adaptations go, it's not one of my favorite Superman villains, but and characters.
So were you missing other villains in this? Were you wishing we hadn't started with Lex yet again?
No. There
are certainly people that have seen the movie already, but I was hearing people earlier in the week that, of course, haven't seen the movie yet, complaining like, God, doesn't Superman have any other villains?
I had maybe thought that when, this movie was first announced, and it was like, oh yeah, it's Lex again. But he won me over. And I mean, I don't know, because I don't know if I ever even saw a lot of. I saw like 2 trailers from this, and the second trailer I saw like once. The first trailer has like one shot of. Oh crap! We're back.
Oh, are Are we back?
Yeah, we're just back.
Just automatically? Oh, there we go.
Possibly.
Look, my own comment came up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're back.
So, we're going to be kind of bouncing around and hovering here.
Whoa, yeah.
We had this set up on the dash, and it is hot enough in this car that the phone that we're using overheated and temporarily interrupted the broadcast. So apologies for our lack of professionalism here, but yeah, I got a rig so that we could do these in the car, and note to self, I guess I can't do that in 80-90 degree weather. But anyway, Jason, why don't you finish your sign flip thoughts? And
so I already did the sign flip, and then I said my best thing.
Right. And so your best thing is just corn sweat, right?
It is corn sweat, yes. And my worst thing, now, this was a good, I think this was a solid movie. I have a few gripes with it that I'll definitely get more into with the spoiler cast.
Yeah.
I will say my big worst thing is just on a first watch, there's a lot going on, and there are a lot of characters, and it's a big world that you were just, like, sucked right into.
So did you feel overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, were you overwhelmed just by, like, plot and characters and things happening, or were you overwhelmed at all by action?
As far as, like, the direction of the plot and the action...
You know, like people always complain about with, like, Snyder's Man of Steel.
Yeah. No. I didn't really feel overwhelmed in that sense.
Did the action feel kind of like standard James Gunn action?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was more just overwhelmed by how many places and how many characters there were.
I just wanted to give people a sense of whether or not we think there's like a sensory overload problem with this movie. Because I could see some people having that in particular sequences. One in the middle especially. There's a big action set piece that I could see some people feeling like was kind of sensory overload. I overall did not have that.
I didn't have that as far as action went. I did have it that with a little bit of just overall, the world is huge, and you, like I said, you are, like, they put you right into it at the very beginning of the movie, and you just have to go with it. But
it absolutely feels like there could be lots of movies in this world before this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I think it doesn't stop me from appreciating the movie, and it also I think on a second watch will be fine.
Sure.
But just on a first watch, it's a little. But it's also a James Gunn film, so I was worried about that.
Yeah. Just on one watch, where do you think it ranks for you in Gunn movies?
In Gunn movies?
Because I know this is a director you like a lot, and I know you're a big fan of the Suicide Squad, and I assume you like the Guardians movies, okay?
So...
You don't have to full-on rank them right now, obviously. Yeah. I'll do my sign flip here in a second, but just, like, do you think it's his best movie? Do you think it's his worst movie? Do you think it's somewhere in the middle?
Movie. I think it's better than Guardians 1.
Oh, wow, okay.
But... Is it better than Guardians 3 now?
Is it better than the Suicide Squad?
It might be. It might be. As far as plot goes, yes.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as, Gunn as a director, probably not.
Do you think he's stretching himself with this, or do you think it's another day at the office?
Do you know
what I mean?
I'd say yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a bit of both. It looks great. And something that I really like that he does is he does a lot more slow motion in this film than a lot of other stuff that he's done. And I'm really wondering if that's like a, hey, Snyder, I can do slow motion better than you.
Well, let me ask you that. Did you get very much of that from this, where there's like intentional one-upping Snyder things?
I don't think so.
Because, I mean, we know these guys are friends. I don't get the sense that he's going out of his way to, like, on the big screen go, hey, everybody, here's how this is done and kind of, you know, metaphorically punch him in the face.
Yeah, no, I
did you get any of that from
I didn't get any of that except for the one thing that I mentioned.
Sure.
There are some bits that felt a little bit like he was kind of redoing himself as far as like specific action scenes from like the Guardians films and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Where it felt like he was just doing certain scenes again. So that does play into a little bit of like just another day at the office. But that's really the only thing I had with that.
And the question is always just, are these your sensibilities and like the reason you go to work in the morning, where you just really like doing these kinds of scenes?
Sure.
Or is it just your comfort, this is your comfort zone and so you have to make movies this way? I think it's really difficult
also, question, did he write this?
Yeah.
Okay. Because this is also like, script-wise, there are scenes that are kind of the same thing as certain scenes from the Guardians films and Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it worked.
How did you feel about his dialogue writing overall?
Overall, it's great.
Yeah.
There are certain bits and pieces where I'm like, no one says that. But there are other things where I'm like, this is actually the most like human anyone has ever sounded in a film. Like, what? So, yeah. But those are my thoughts.
So you're pretty positive.
I'm pretty positive, yeah.
You wanted to see it a second time in the theater.
Yeah.
How theatrical of an experience is it? Like how like must see on the big screen is it?
There are certain shots that look really good. I think overall, I was gonna say this movie looks really good.
You did say that.
I didn't think I did. But this movie does look really good, and I think I would say it's a must see, and maybe not a must see, but if you like this theater experience, it is a great movie for the theater.
So we're on a bit of a clock here. I'm gonna be as brief as I can be because I've got to take some kids somewhere here in a few minutes. So we've got to end in about 10. But I should have opened with this. I forgot to mention this. But speaking of the theatrical experience, we should mention the way we ended up seeing this.
Yeah.
Because
that's why I wasn't sure.
I made the mistake of accidentally buying 3D tickets, and as you guys know, I can't see movies in 3D, so the only thing the 3D experience does to me is it makes me pay a higher ticket price, and I see the movie with a more muted color palette, or I should say a lighter, a dimmer experience. You probably noticed whenever I get forced to see a movie in 3D, whenever I get forced to spend money to have a worse experience, I always in places will pull my 3D glasses down just to get a sense of what the actual lighting is, even though it's blurrier. I don't know if you noticed me do that, but I kept doing that because it is frustrating how real bright, I mean, especially compared to a lot of DCEU, but like, and even some of James Gunn's other movies, not that he makes like the real dark looking movies, but this is an intentionally real colorful, real bright experience, and we did not get the full experience.
Yeah, it wasn't full. I got used to it. But maybe that's not what
the trade-off is. Whoa! That's supposed to be the trade-off. Now,
it's funny.
I was going to ask you, what did you think of it in 3D? Since your eyes work that way and mine do not.
The craziest...
Did you notice anything especially cool, like jumping out at you? Or
what the craziest thing was in 3D?
What's that?
The subtitles. Like they look like they're in front of everything.
Was there any cool action stuff that feels to jump out on the screen?
Yeah,
like you're the only one of the two of us that can tell people if they should see this in 3D or not.
There's a bit where I don't remember anywhere in the movie this is, but there's a shot where Superman's fighting someone and Superman's face goes like right into the screen, and it like kind of jumps out. That's cool. And there's some stuff like that, and it's kind of weird in the first like 15 minutes, but.
So I will say, see this movie as large as you can see it. We saw it on 3D XD, which is the Cinemark version of IMAX, and it was enormous, and that was lovely. Don't see it in 3D if you can't see it in 3D. But also I would say don't do that anyway, so that you can see the just how bright and colorful the movie is supposed to be.
Well, and for me, when I was seeing things 3D, you can't really pay attention to the full screen when you have 3D. Like, your eyes are really only able to look at, like, one thing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, this is a huge action scene with everything happening, when you're only looking at one specific thing and then your eyes dart to another thing.
Well, you mentioned, we didn't sit super close, but we sat close enough that I didn't realize until about 45 minutes in that I wasn't even looking at the entire screen. So there's a place where there are subtitles when people are speaking a foreign language, and I wasn't seeing the subtitles right away. And I had to, like, lean back on my seat and look down, and I went, oh crap, I'm not actually looking at the entirety of the frame, and I felt kind of dumb. So anyway, sign flip and best thing, worst thing for me. I don't know what exactly I was expecting from a James Gunn Superman movie. What we got was not precisely what I was imagining.
Yeah.
And I say that because I don't even know, I wasn't even sure what exactly to imagine. I said years ago, Superman is the thing I really want to see Gunn try to do, because I wanted to see him, in a way, I can't say I called this because I didn't think it would happen, but I wanted it. I said on stream, like, quite a while back, I think even before he got the job being head of DC Studios, I said I would be really interested to see James Gunn make specifically a Superman movie, because it's the antithesis in a lot of ways of everything else he makes, where he really likes doing anti-hero movies, he really likes doing movies with a big cast, with a big ensemble. Like, all of his big superhero things so far, mainstream things, have been ensemble team movies, and they've been about anti-heroes.
Yes.
And they've been about the losers. And he definitely finds ways to get those sensibilities into this movie.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with worst thing.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
My worst thing is, it's James Gunn's sensibilities distract me sometimes. They do get in the way.
Really?
Yeah, I at least on a first viewing. Now, as our audience knows, I tend to need to see a James Gunn movie 4 times before I like it. I can say right away that I don't need to see this movie 4 times to know if I like it. I will probably need to see it 4 times to like it, as well as I imagine I will eventually as I'm adjusting to it. And that's not settling, it's just Gunn does things counterintuitively sometimes in a good way. I'm like, that's not how I would do it, and it takes me a bit to realize why those choices were made, and I go, no, that's correct for what you're doing. And it takes me a bit to get there with him. But I was worried going into this that the ensemble cast would take over too much. And that doesn't happen exactly, but there is a part of me that still wishes that we focused on the character of Superman more than we did.
Yeah.
And again, it's weird because I do feel like, well, first of all, he's not monosyllabic anymore like he has been in the last 2 iterations. And we do get in his head, and we do understand him very thoroughly. It's not a super deep character study, but I know the man. Like, I really get what he's about. And it is a unique interpretation while still being traditional in the right ways. Like, it's very modern and it's very traditional all at the same time, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
When I say it's James Gunn's sensibilities kind of get in the way sometimes for me, some of it is, so like I said, I always wanted to see him tackle a character this altruistic. And he keeps the character that way. And I always said you can make a dark Superman movie, you just can't make Superman himself dark. This movie does get dark in places that I really, really appreciate and respect, and I love how Superman feels powerful enough, but he's very John Byrne in his power set. We find lots of ways to make him not pathetic, but vulnerable. And you get a lot of super vulnerability in this, emotionally, physically. I don't think anybody could see this movie and go, see, this is why Superman is not interesting, because he is too powerful and he can do anything and nothing hurts him. Superman's hurt I feel like Gunn is pushing against that idea so hard. Like, yeah. For some people, maybe too far. I really appreciated it, though.
Yeah.
But I do think, just for my personal taste and the fact that I have kids and stuff, it goes a little more Gunn adult than I was kind of hoping it would.
Yeah.
In some places. Yeah, and this might just be a me thing. It might just be a taste thing. That's fine. A little more language than I needed in a Superman movie. People are gonna boo me on this. That's fine. Like, I like that we've got a Superman movie with a little edge to it, where Superman himself is not the thing that is edgy, but where you have a Superman that's conflicted in the right kinds of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't the Snyder thing of how do we make Superman cool and edgy, and he can't decide if he even cares about people. He's not conflicted in that way. He's conflicted in he's trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't always know what that is. The best thing about the movie is that, hands down for me, is that and you spoke to this earlier, is that you have a very human Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and he is it's that humanity, it's that vulnerability, it's a again, it's that you have a Superman trying to do the right thing that struggles with what that is. He's a really real person, but still manages to hang on to the principles that you want for that character. And the kind of message of the movie is that, and this is the way in which I appreciate how modern it is, and where I feel like it's kind of an important movie right now. This punk rock idea got me.
Yeah.
Really got me. And I won't speak too much to that because I don't want to spoil things, but this movie, I couldn't even believe this. Gunn talks about Superman in this movie, I mean his script, like the way scholars discuss Mr. Rogers. He's countercultural because he has the audacity to be altruistic and put other people first, and to try to always do the right thing. And of course, Lex being the ultimate narcissist is the antithesis to that. A lot of other things I could have put as my best thing. I mean, I did like a lot of things in this.
He even saves the squirrel.
Dude, we're not spoiling things. There is a part where Superman saves the squirrel. I still can't get over that moment. That was amazing. Anyway, I could have said the Superman-Lois relationship. It's definitely maybe tied. Maybe it's like a three-way tie for me with like strongest on-screen romantic chemistry between them. Because obviously Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder had it. I think I like this version of Lois even better than Kidder. It's much more modern, off the page, like what I like from Lois in the comics. And then I really like them in my adventures. And that's maybe right now like kind of a three-way tie. But from moment one, they've got fantastic chemistry, and I really like what we're doing with like the early days of the relationship in this. Also, I like that we have a somewhat immature but not obnoxious Superman. I think that was risky. You can see him potentially over time getting much more to that stalwart, very sure of himself, knows he's doing the right thing Christopher Reeve plays. This is not an origin movie, but it's very like Superman year one. I mean, I realize this is supposed to be like 3 years into his career, but it feels like a Superman that hasn't found himself yet, but is about all the right things. And that I really liked. And then, of course, the Lex Superman relationship would be the other thing that I could have said is my best thing. And I wasn't even sure about it until the very end of the movie. I had to see how the whole thing played out.
Really?
And yeah, because they don't get a lot of screen time together. And that's on purpose.
Yeah.
And when we finally get more of that by the end, they really got me with it. I think Holt is fantastic, and it is a much more over the top and ruthless and insane Lex than I expected.
Yeah.
And I've seen crazy. Lex get that insane, like, over time into things. I don't remember ever opening with one. Yeah. And yeah, I could use more characterization and background stuff for Lex. I hope down the road we'll get that. One reservation I had, and I wonder if I'll have this on repeat viewings, was, we're gonna have to get going. One reservation I had was, and I'm torn on this, is it does feel like a thing that kind of has prerequisites. Kind of. What I mean is, it knows that most people watching have seen Superman things before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's things that they just don't focus on because we've spent a lot of time on them in other media.
Yeah.
It handles that a lot better than something like Spider-Man Homecoming, which goes, well, we've done the Uncle Ben thing, so we're not even going to tell you how much of that has even happened. You know, we're just not even going to talk about it at all. This doesn't do that, but there are bits that we would explore more if only we hadn't explored them before in media, and that's why it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's like, I kind of wish you approached it like we'd never had a Superman thing before, but then you're also approaching it like, well, of course everybody likes Superman, and everybody is familiar with this, and there's no reason to dwell on that stuff. So it's a reservation before it's a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I had that thought, but I didn't think about it as much as you.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have it going in, where I was like, I really had only thought about that after the movie ended. You know, through the movie, I was like, oh yeah, I'm filling in the blanks, but it's definitely not your first Superman movie. Like, I feel like there are some things that would need to be filled in for you.
Yeah, I do feel like it would be a little bit weird if this was the first Superman thing you ever saw.
Yeah.
Especially because there's at least one, again, I'll be cryptic, there's at least one mythology thing that goes, you're expecting it to go one way, here's kind of a twist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to the degree that Snyder did it with Man of Steel, of course.
Right.
But there is some of that. Let me also say, I have waited decades for a Superman movie that cares this much about comics. And it goes without saying with James Gunn that he's going to actually, like, adapt from the books, and that we're going to actually be allowed to do super science and sci-fi stuff and fantasy things and all of that.
Yeah.
But it was so nice to finally get there with Superman. As far as where it would fall for me with Gunn's movies, I actually disagree with you story-wise. I don't think it's as good as the Suicide Squad.
Okay.
Just on our first viewing. But some of that too is a story that's a bit more complex than this, and this is intentionally simpler. So when you say there's a lot going on, yeah, there's a lot of characters, and there's a lot of action, and there's a lot of like little details, but you can break the story down in like a one-sentence logline in a way you can't with the Suicide Squad. I think it's, or even the Guardians movies. I mean, I think it's the simplest story Gunn has ever told.
Well, and for me, that makes it a bit better. But, because, I mean, I probably wouldn't... The problem is, I rewatched the Suicide Squad when we were doing the commentary, and that story kind of fell apart more on a second viewing, which is weird.
Okay.
Because for you, it got better and better.
Yeah.
But for me, on a second viewing, I was like, oh, I don't actually... You know, there's kind of more happening, and this isn't as exciting. But, obviously, you know, I still like all of those movies. But
so, I don't know at the moment where I would rank it, like, looking at the Guardians movies and other stuff he's made. And again, you know, some of his sensibilities get a little bit in the way for me. I feel like he's... He does feel like he's finding excuses to go more ensemble than I want him to.
I agree.
But you do get a full character arc for Superman. He's not lost in his movie. Even in a decent stretch where he's got to be taken off the board, I feel like we still like keep getting back to him. And so that's good. The guy playing Mr. Terrific is so freaking good.
Yeah, he's great.
He's fantastic. I love the stoicism of that character. There's a lot of like good comedy that comes from him too. I'll also say, I thought about making my worst thing some comedy. There's some comedy that does not land for me, and some of it's just a matter of taste, of course. But I meant to open with this. If you don't like James Gunn, you're going to be really disappointed with this movie,
Mm-hmm.
or you're not going to be surprised at all. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, if I think people that were already down on him and don't think, especially his comedy, is funny, because I've met those people that were like, God, I don't want him to run the whole universe, are gonna feel real vindicated with this.
Yeah.
And so if you're one of those, you're probably not going to love this, or hopefully the story and Corn Sweat and everything can carry you through that stuff. But I don't think we have to worry that the whole universe is going to be those sensibilities, that he's not going to let other filmmakers make what they want to make. And after all, he is the writer that he is, and he's going to write the kind of stories he wants to write. You know? So I'm not going to begrudge him that, but I was hoping he would stretch a little further than he did.
Yeah. It's not a comedic movie, but there is a lot of comedy in it. I mean, it's not a comedy, but there is a lot of comedic stuff in it.
Yeah.
But
it's real whimsical.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Real whimsical.
Yeah.
And I really loved that about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to wrap up here.
Oh yeah.
But we're gonna say real quick.
I laughed at a lot of stuff, but there were definitely things. There's a specific running gag that I don't like.
I think I'm in the same place you are. Yeah.
And I was gonna bring up that there's a spot towards the end with Lex that there's a choice that's made that I don't really like.
Yeah, there's a whole subplot that is serviceable to the story that I just didn't think was funny.
Sure.
That I didn't need. And so I don't know if we have the same thing.
Yeah.
But do we have the same thing?
I don't know.
Oh, you're not sure? Okay.
But I don't know. Overall, I thought the jokes landed. And yeah, they're very Gunn. It's very Gunn kind of humor. But.
Well, we will talk more about this on Monday. We're going to do a full spoiler cast. It will be at least a couple of hours, I'm sure. So join us for that, if you will. Leave us your comments and let us know how you felt about the movie. And just try not to spoil stuff for people. It's still pretty early. But anyway, overall, I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Me too.
And there's, I don't know, like idea-wise, like messaging-wise, I'm over the moon about it.
Mm-hmm.
I
do think there were a couple messages in there where they're just flat out given to you.
Well, sure.
But, the message is still great.
But, I was, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the biggest thing you hope for with a Superman movie is that your Superman will be inspiring. Yeah. And I was impressed that he could be as unsure of himself and in some place in arguably sometimes misguided and still very much have that. Yeah. And that was lovely. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this is Jason.
That was Jason.
Bye, everybody.
That was the theater.
Now I gotta figure out how to turn this off. Bye, everybody. X.